Hey everyone, it's Dr. Danielle Clark with Onwards with Dr. Danielle. You are on the Win-Win Women Network. This is a live show. If you're catching the replay, that's okay. It's the same good information and it's the same good energy. I'm your host. I'm a business professor, psychic medium, intuitive life coach, and much, much more. Onwards with Dr. Danielle is all about offering you healing conversations to get you unstuck. And today we are going to be focused on having difficult yet needed conversations. So if you found yourself in this space with me, chances are there's no coincidence. There is some sort of a conversation that you're wanting to have, but you haven't found the motivation, you haven't found the confidence, you haven't found the technique to give you the power and grace you need to move forward. And hopefully that's what I'm going to offer you today, is a little love, a little perspective, and some hands-on practical things you can do to try and ensure that this difficult yet needed conversation is as love-filled and as peaceful and as successful as it can be. So the first item I wanted to chat with you about is awareness and motivation. Awareness and motivation. So if you found yourself here, there's something you're aware of that's living inside of you. Maybe there's a lie. Maybe there is a coming out of sorts, right? Maybe there is an opinion. Maybe there is a viewpoint that you haven't been able to release. You're not sure how to fill in the blank. Maybe that difficult conversation is with your spouse, it's with your mom, it's with your friend. And you're here because you found some awareness. And I encourage you, one of the first things to do to find a little bit more motivation is to really understand what is inside of you and how it might be negatively impacting you. So when we keep things inside of ourselves, when we're not expressing our true self, there's a lot of shame that might be breeding in our physical body, in our emotional body, and our spiritual body. And the more awareness you can have of how does that shame make you feel? How does that not honoring your throat chakra make you feel? The more awareness, the closer you'll get to finding a motivational source within you to release this. Because we shouldn't be walking around with should haves. I should have, I should have, I could have. We shouldn't be walking around with shame and guilt. All of those things are all too common, but I'm also here to tell you it's an illness, especially in our society here in the States. It's so common. We think that's just the way it is. And no, that's not the way it needs to be. We should be walking around with light. We should be walking around in the present moment. So take an opportunity. This can be through a nature walk. This can be through a journaling session. Take an opportunity to check in with yourself and get very clear and honest with yourself. What am I doing to my mind, body, and soul by not releasing my truth to the world, to this person, to this organization, whatever it is? You found yourself here because you're looking for motivation, and I want you to know that I'm personally cheering you on. I've had many of those conversations myself. I've had to come to someone and say, I lied. I've had to come to someone and say, I've cheated. I've had to come to someone and say, I disagree. Not easy conversations, not easy, but no, I've walked into them and I've walked out of them over and over again. And what I can tell you from my own lived experiences is that anytime I'm honoring my truth, anytime I'm honoring my soul, it is the beginning process of healing. It is that elimination of stuck energy that allows me to move forward. And sometimes those I statements are hard because it's a reckoning with ourselves. Sometimes the I statement is something hard, like I did something wrong, or I disagree. And sometimes it comes from a beautiful place of loving yourself and empowerment, but somebody else doesn't agree with you, or somebody else isn't going to see it that way. So there's many, many different avenues here. And just know I've been there. And that's why I'm here for you today, to give you this, okay, I'm not alone, because you're not alone. You are not alone. So keep in mind, we want better health. And many of us just want things to get better. If you're here watching this, there's a really good chance that you're just like, I just want things to get better in my life, right? No, having hard yet difficult conversations is a tool to get things better, right? When we're not living with secrets, when we're not living with lies, when we're not living with half-truths, things are going to get better. Those low vibes, they are going to turn into higher vibes, which is going to allow universe to work with us and attract the things that we are looking for. So let me debunk some limiting beliefs of sorts as it relates to difficult conversations. I work with clients regularly, and they'll say, I don't want to hurt someone, right? I have this thing to say. I don't want to move in with them, or I want to end the relationship, or I'm coming out of the closet. Whether that's sexual preference or spiritual preferences, but I don't want to hurt them. I don't think they're ready. I owe them so much. They've done so much for me. I can't hurt them, right? I'm coming here saying, I think that's a limiting belief. If I look at my own life and I pinpoint where the most transformation in my life came from, it's because of those hurt times. It's because of those, the rug was pulled out from under me times, the times I didn't expect, the times that really caused me to go inwards and better understand myself and my reality. And so I motivate you, I challenge you. Maybe you do hurt them, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We need hurt sometimes, not all the time, to find some growth. And you're not responsible for how someone takes something. I use the playing catch analogy. If we're playing catch, right? Let's say we're playing football and I'm going to throw you the perfect spiral, which I can do, by the way. I'm actually pretty good at throwing around a football. So I throw you the perfect spiral right here, chest. And you miss it, you don't catch it, right? There was nothing I could have done better, right? My aim was good, right? The spiral was there for you. And that's how difficult conversations should be viewed too. We can do the best we can to deliver the ball, to deliver the conversation with love, with integrity, with aim. And if somebody doesn't hear it that way, right? If somebody doesn't respond that way, that's okay. Having a difficult yet needed conversation is for us, and the chance of opening something else bigger for somebody else, and potentially a reconnection or a re-understanding or forgiveness. But we can only control what we can control. And that should take a lot off of you, right? So as it relates to that limiting belief of, I don't want to hurt them, right? It's their choice, in a sense, if they get hurt, right? It's their choice if they decide to stew and be sour for a month, or they decide to get curious and lean into the conversation. It's their choice if they shut down and judge. And so just know that. Don't let anyone take away your power. This is your health. This is your life. Like, let's just pause. Like, this is your life. You are here for you, to honor yourself, to honor your soul, to honor your universe, God, creator, whatever that term is for you. You are here for you. And so you're going to do what's best for you. And you're going to worry about others in a sense of, you're going to throw the ball the best you can. But that's it. That's all you need to do. Now, when we think about actually having a difficult conversation, right? Like, let's kind of review some tactical things. Like, how are you going to get the most out of it, right? You don't want your dad yelling again. You don't want your girlfriend crying again, right? Again, that's theirs, not yours, but that doesn't mean we're not showing up with empathy. That doesn't mean we're not showing up with some strategy and grace, right? So let's take a pause, and I encourage you to do that, right? Like visualize what's your difficult conversation and game plan a little bit, right? You know, what's this person's personality? Right? And what can you do to set a stage so that way you and them are receiving as much grace, as much peace as possible. So I like to say, really review the who, what, where, when, how, right? Just kind of go through those. Timing matters. Timing matters. You know, if it's Friday and somebody's worked 60, 70 hours that week and they're just burnt and fried, might not be the best day to have that difficult conversation, even though you might want to, right? Because you're like, I just got to get this out. I just got to get this out. But take some time to be considerate, right? What's the right time? Maybe you know your friend's not a morning person. Don't schedule an 8 a.m. breakfast to spill the beans, right? So just be thoughtful of time. Location really matters too, having a difficult yet needed conversation. Sometimes it's best to meet somebody in their space. Sometimes it's best to meet in a neutral place, right? Sometimes space can indicate power, if you will, right? You want someone to feel comfortable or free to talk or free to leave. So again, some consideration, should this be somewhere public? Should this be somewhere private, right? Just kind of think about those things. Think about what you have to say. This is critical. All too often, we spiral. We are trying to figure out how we're going to justify ourselves or how we're going to explain ourselves. Let's try to live in the moment with a conversation. That doesn't mean we're not doing some prep. But what is it that you have to say? And chances are it can be boiled down to a few sentences. And that's what I'd like you to do. I think this is a great, homework assignment for you, if you will, if you need a difficult conversation. I hear from a lot of clients and they're like, I just have so much to say. And I'm sure you do. But what's the meat and potatoes of the message? We need to get it concise. We need to get it crisp. We need to get it clear. Nothing frilly about it. What is the message? I'm not moving to California with you. One sentence, right? Now, I'm not saying that's how it's delivered, but you need to get clear on what you need to talk about. Or maybe it's three things. You hurt me here. You hurt me here, and I'm having trust issues now. But you're hearing the simplicity of that, and that is really critical for you to understand, because difficult conversations are emotion filled. You're going to be emotional. The other party might be emotional. And so you really want to make sure you're not leaving that conversation without getting across what you need to get across. So spend some time really honing in that message. What is it that you need to say? And this helps too. I feel like almost every Onwards with Dr. Danielle episode, I'm here because it's important, right? Asking your heart, what do I need to say? Because our mind will tell us what we need to say. I need to say this and I need to say that, right? That's our ego. What does our heart need to say, right? What needs to happen? So definitely spend some time figuring out that message of yours, right? And then you might want to take some time figuring out your feelings, because the clearer you are, then when you get into the difficult conversation, somebody's yelling at you, somebody's pointing a finger, or somebody's judging, somebody's crying. It's very easy for us to take on the emotions of others while we're with them. So get clear on how you're feeling, right? That way you're not as easily swayed at that time. You want to be able to hold grounded to what you're feeling. Now, that doesn't mean that your emotions don't expand or change based off of what you hear and learn from the other person, but you don't want to just be a chameleon and take everything on of somebody else's. You want to be clear on how you're feeling. Now, when we're having that difficult yet needed conversation, again, emotions are going to be high, right? Emotions are going to be high. A few things to keep in mind. You want to respond, but not react. There's a difference. You want to respond, but not react. Reacting's ego. It's when you feel the fire within, right? I need to cut them off. I need to explain, right? I need to move the conversation. That's reacting. A response is a little more grounded, a little more heart-centered, right? And so how do we respond? Well, for starters, you need to come into the conversation grounded, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe a meditation before your difficult conversation, maybe some music that moves you in a certain way, maybe bring a cup of tea, like whatever it is to kind of keep you grounded, right? Some mantras, some jewelry, like whatever it is that just reminds you to be in touch with your higher self, right? Because that's going to ensure you respond and not react. And it's important, allow the person to be that person in the moment. So if you're coming to the table with a difficult situation, you've had more time to process the situation, right? You know that you cheated, you know that you messed up, and are in touch with your spiritual beliefs or your sexual beliefs or whatever that difficult yet needed conversation is. You're quitting the job, right? Just fill in the blank. And so just keep in mind, you've had time to process a bit, right? And so if the person comes very sharp or very shocked, just allow that. Don't take that personal. It's very human for someone to get mad in the moment, to snap in the moment. Now, I'm not excusing it, but what I am giving you is a little power and grace. So you remember, this is normal, this is coming. This doesn't mean the conversation's not a success. This doesn't mean the person isn't listening. This doesn't mean the person's not going to shift, right? Another thing we want to do in these difficult conversations, we want to get curious. Curiosity is a heart opener. Curiosity is a throat chakra opener. We don't want to judge. We don't want to be one-sided. There might be a perspective we don't fully understand. There might be a nugget of truth and learning in this conversation for us. We can't come, it's not all about us, right? We need to get curious. Help me understand from a place of love. Why did you do that? Help me understand. I'm feeling this way. I don't get it. I don't get it. Help me understand. And try to genuinely get to a place of you wanting to listen. If that serves you, be clear on that too. Sometimes we don't want to listen to the person. It's not a person we care to continue a relationship with. We just need to speak our truth and then cut ties. And I think that's also important. But if this is a difficult yet needed conversation, and you're hoping to continue the relationship, and maybe even not, really important, listen, get curious. Judging doesn't help. Judging does not help. When we're getting ready for these difficult yet needed conversations, really important too, that if you have that spiritual side, call it in. Call them in, whoever them is, right? Those are your peeps in heaven. Those are your spirit guides. Those are your spirit animals. You're not alone. And sometimes we don't have these conversations because we feel alone, right? I can't do this on my own. You're not alone. I promise you, you are not alone. Your guides, your angels, your loved ones, they are there, literally, like wrapping you in love, and will be there for you to speak your truth. And you're not alone because you have my energy. The energy of this conversation, it sticks. It sticks. And if you are someone that doesn't like to do things alone and you need a physical presence, see what you can do to make that happen. Because that's another limiting belief. I can't do this alone, right? Okay, if you can't get yourself to a point where you know you can, then invite somebody as needed, right? Have your best friend sit next to you while they make the difficult phone call, right? Just to have that energy, just to have that love. Sure, take some vulnerability to ask somebody to help, right? And that kind of a need. But again, we're here having difficult yet needed conversations. Your soul wants this big relief for you. The soul wants you to be in a place of peace, calm, and clarity. Invite somebody in. Ask somebody to come with you. I would strongly recommend. Really important, once we have the difficult conversation, do a little reflecting. Don't hyper focus. Well, what did he say when he said that? Did she mean it that way? No. That's ego. That's ego. But have a heart-centered reflection. Whew. How am I feeling? How am I feeling? Where do I feel like I honored my true self? Was I respectful to the other person? Did I give the best I could given this difficult conversation? Those are helpful. Just a little reflection, right? And if there's anything open-ended, then nothing's ever closed. Decide what you need. Do you need to go back to the person and say, hey, reflecting on this, I realize I was short with you here. I'm sorry about that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but take some time to reflect. Sometimes we can just forgive ourselves and move on. Ooh, I was a little salty here, and here, but you know what? It was a big conversation. Overall, I feel good. I'm not even bringing it up. I forgive myself, right? We don't always need validation or forgiveness from somebody else. That's also really important, right? In any kind of a difficult conversation with others, but the needed kind, we should be looking to create a stronger relationship with ourselves. And yes, potentially someone else for sure, but we shouldn't need them, right? They can still feel a certain way. They can close us off. Again, as long as we've done our part, that's all we can ask for, right? We also want to celebrate some wins. Having a hard conversation is hard, like really, really hard. And anytime we do something that is for our highest good, even though it might not feel like it in the time, we should take the time to celebrate. Now, that might just be something on the self-care spectrum. That might be a nice bubble bath. That might be a glass of wine. That might be a movie with a friend, right? But take the opportunity to say, hey, like, thank you. Like, that wasn't easy and you showed up, right? Talk to yourself, give yourself a hug. It's so, so important. So in wrapping up, having that difficult yet needed conversation, it's hard. It's one of the hardest things we can do because we're being honest with ourselves. And sometimes that is really hard, right? Being honest with ourselves. I screwed up. I need to talk to you about this, right? I'm not happy about this, but it's needed. We're also role models, right? Nobody likes the fakery of today, right? Social media, politics, right? I mean, yikes, it's yucky out there, right? We're being role models. Show you're ugly, right? Like, hey, I'm showing up. You're not hurting someone. You're not hurting someone. You're being a role model for what honest, soul-centered, inspired, real, raw conversation should be. You do it with love and light. So it is. So with that, have that conversation. Have that conversation. Have the conversation. Prepare. Don't over prepare. Love yourself. There's no such thing as over loving yourself. So keep that going and just do it. Just do it. The world needs you at your highest and brightest. So get this off of your chest. I'm sending you all love and light. I want you to remember it's the cracks in your heart that let the light shine through. This is Onwards with Dr. Danielle. This is live 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. If you weren't able to join live, please visit us next time. For those of you live in the audience, continue to hang out. I'm going to stop the recording of this episode and we'll have an opportunity to chat. Farewell.